Theatre Royal beam seats. There are 3 lengths of beam: a 1-seater, a 2-seater and a 3-seater. I haven't got a 3-seater here, but you can imagine one more beam longer. There are 2 types of floor mounts for the beam seats. There is the freestanding, which has that large foot, so it's designed to sit on the floor without requiring floor fixings. The freestanding usually has linking as well, but I'll come to that later. And the removables have a stanchion type foot, and then they're bolted to a floor plate. This one here, which is bolted to the floor with 2 countersunk fixings into concrete fixings in the floor, and then there's tapped holes at the end for the permanent fixings. I'll show you in the drawing. So you can see here 2 floor fixings, countersunk fixings to hold the plate into the concrete fixings, and then M8 by 20 and flat washers to hold the plate, to hold the beam onto the plate. There is an exception to that in the back row of the gallery where there are wheelchair positions, and in those cases, instead of using a set screw, we use a tri-bolt. So that enables the chairs to be removed by unskilled people, ushers, or without the necessity for tools. So that just screws into there. The beam comes as a beam itself, and then we have to assemble the legs and the rest of the seat onto that. So we have an intermediate stanchion which comes with an armrest. This is not the armrest for this job. 2 seating plates, seat plates, which are just like this. Now there is a difference between the gallery and the stalls. So this one here I'm showing you is for the stalls. The gallery seat plate is like that. There's a difference because of the back angle. So the intermediate stanchion is pre-assembled. It has a welded clamp on the bottom, and then there's a loose clamp underneath. It comes in a box, and then it has an M8 by 20 cap screw and a nylock nut to hold it in place. There's also an end mount, and you have a right and left end mount. Once again, these have a beam clamp and a loose bracket underneath. These are pre-assembled at the factory with a seat mounting plate, and there's right and left hand versions of it. The right hand, these bolts here have been left loose because in many instances they will have an armrest bolted to that, which is essentially the same as the intermediate arm, but see the clamp on the bottom, they do not have that clamp, but it can bolt to there, and so that gives you an armrest at the end of the beam. The next chair doesn't have an armrest, so there's only one armrest between the beams. When you're fitting the end arm, you have to change the bolt. So for the end mount, as it comes pre-assembled, or it has a M8 by 20 countersunk cap screw and a nylock nut. So you take those out and change those for a button head cap screw, which 20 long I think, which is supplied loose. If you have to fit an aisle panel, then when you're fitting the aisle panel, you go through the back 2 holes of the pivot block. Now these are assembled in the factory with those fixings in place, so those fixings have to be removed for where an aisle panel is used. So use it's a T20 Torx bit, I'm supplying those. Unscrew it almost all the way and then knock the fitting out before you remove the screw completely. It's much easier to do that because the bush there is pressed into the plastic. Fit the aisle panel after the seats have been assembled and you've got the back on. If you don't do that, it's difficult to get the back on because of the compression down the side here, making it difficult to get the back in here. So when the back's on, then you can fit the aisle panel. The aisle panel is pre-fitted with a light. It has a wire in here. For the freestanding, we don't use those lights, so just leave the wire coiled in place. For the removables, there is a tube. And I haven't got it here to show you, but there's a piece of conduit that will come along here, and then come up here in that area. There'll be a drawing for it in the drawing manual. So you have to feed the wire through that. Connect to that plug. And then now, when you come for a one-seater beam, a one-seater beam has a right and left have those on. It doesn't have an intermediate, and there's a separate jig for that. On the three-seaters, we use another spacer to set out the next arm, and then of course on the other end you use this one again for there. All seats are at the same centres, so we only have 3 jigs. This one for the three-seater, this one for the at the end of each end of the 3, and for the 2-seater, and the small one for the 1-seater. I think that is all for the removable seats.